Hey, dude. Could you please stop humming? It's like super distracting.
No, but thank you for asking. Ah! Is that in my head? Is it in my head? Just a little bit. Hey friends, thanks for tuning in. My name is Sean Davis, and today we're going to talk about mixing some practical effects with some visual effects to create a fun, dynamic scene. In this case, putting a pencil in my head. Quick disclaimer before we start. Don't throw things at people. Don't do it. It's not safe. I didn't even do it. That's what the visual effects are for. With that being said, let's continue. Now, before we jump into Premiere Pro, which is the software I use to edit all this together, we need to talk about what we did to set up our scene to make our lives easier when we're editing. First thing I did is I put my camera on a tripod and gathered a clean plate. What is a clean plate? It's essentially a shot of your scene with nobody in it. That'll come into play later, and it's super important. Other than that, now we needed to do our practical effects. All I did was something like this. I'm sure you've seen this concept a ton of times, nothing new, and it works. I took a headband, the bow is optional because you're not gonna see it, and then I taped a pencil. I cut about 1 inch off the pencil to represent the part that should go in my head, and then I taped it all together, put it right here, slid it on the back, and we have something kind of like this. Now the only thing I needed to do is react. So I sat kind of still for a second, and then like that. And that's pretty much it. Obviously add in your acting, your that hurt, that sort of stuff, however you want to do it. And then let's jump into Premiere. All right, now that we are in Premiere Pro, let me show you what I have going on here in our bins. Clip number 1 is that clip of me sitting there with a pencil on my head, and then I react. Then I have our clean plate, which again is the same shot without anybody in it. And then lastly, I have a pencil PNG, which is essentially a pencil with the background cut out. What I did to find this image is I went to Google, I typed in pencil PNG, and then found an image that was licensed to legally use. Make sure you do the same thing when you're looking for your images. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this clean plate and I'm gonna drag that onto my timeline. Then I'm gonna take the clip of me with the pencil already in my head and put that on top of the clean plate. Now, if you notice, the pencil is already visible in my head, and at first you don't want it to be there, right? We want it to kind of fly in and get stuck in there. So what we need to do is we need to take that pencil out where we don't want to see it and then have it appear when we need it to. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my right arrow button and kind of go frame by frame and wait till I start reacting to that pencil hitting, which is right about here. Right when I start blinking, you see my arm starting to flare up there. Now I'm going to hit C on my keyboard, and that brings up the little razor tool, and I'm going to click right there on this clip right here. Now I know that everything over here on this side, we don't want the pencil to be seen, and then everything over here, the pencil can be seen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this clip and then go to Effect Controls. So I'm in Editing and Effect Controls, and I'm going to go right here where it says Opacity and click our pen tool, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to zoom in like 200% so we can see that pencil. And I'm going to draw a nice little box around this pencil as neatly as I can, as close to the hair as possible, but we don't want to make the hair disappear. Now you notice I disappeared for a second. That's because the mask needs to be inverted. Right now we're telling it to save the pencil and not anything else, but we want the opposite. So I go back over here where it says opacity on the mask and hit invert. Now the pencil is gone. Now you notice we cannot see the pencil at all as we go through here, and then all of a sudden it's going to look, see, there it is, there it's not, there it is, there it's not, there it is, there it's not. Pretty neat, right? That's where the clean plate came into play. If you look right here, underneath is where our clean plate is. If I took away that clean plate, you'd see a black box right there, because again, what we did is we cut out everything on this frame right here, and it needs something to put underneath of it, otherwise you'll have that black bar. So that's where the clean plate came in to fill in that space underneath where we cut out the pencil. Okay, so now that we have the real pencil cut out on here, we need to add in the fake pencil and have it, flying across the room. So I'm gonna grab my PNG, drag it right here on top of my clips, and then obviously it is way too big. The color's a little bit off, so let's go ahead and work on lining that up. In order to line it up and make it look as real as possible, I'm gonna scrub forward here just a little bit to where the real pencil is in frame, so we can use that as our base to make sure that we get this pencil to match as close as possible. So let's go ahead and bring the scaling down a little bit on this for sure. Let's go ahead and move it closer to the real guy here and rotate. All right, yeah, looks pretty close. Obviously, I don't want it to line exactly up with the pencil because I want the real pencil to be that last movement of going in. So this is pretty close. This looks really good. The color is a little bit off on the pencil, so let's go ahead and change that. I'm gonna go to effects really quick and then type in change and change color too. So I'm gonna drag this effect and put it on my PNG. And then over here in my effects tab, I'm going to click the little dropper and click on the PNG. Say change that color to this color. And it's a little bit closer. It's not perfect, but it's closer. And when we add in motion blur, that's gonna help a lot too. All right, now let's go back over to our editing. So now that we have the size and everything pretty close with the pencils, we need to animate the pencil, right? We need to make it kind of fly across the screen and end right here. This is where we want it to end right before the real pencil shows up. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit C on my keyboard again and cut right here. I'm gonna delete this part because right here we don't need it. We have the real pencil right here, and if I go back a frame, there's the fake one and the real one, the fake one, the real one. So what we need to do is we want the pencil to end right here, right? But all the way back here, it needs to be moving. So I'm gonna go right up to the last part that we see it. Right here is the last time that we see the pencil, right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up to my effects controls, and I'm going to put a keyframe right here on rotation and position, because we're gonna change those as it moves backwards. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just going to grab this and drag it all the way to the beginning. And at the start of this, I actually want my pencil to be all the way out of frame over here. If you notice, it's going all the way out of frame. And I want it to spin a lot, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take my rotation, drag it up a bunch. Right here, let's see what we got right here. If I go frame by frame, if you go 1, 2, 3, you see how it's kind of flying through the air, and then boom, right here, and then there's the real pencil right there. It doesn't look too bad, right? It's actually pretty cool. But we're not done yet. If you go back and look at the pencil as it's flying through the air, it looks nice and clean and sharp and in focus. But when in actuality, if something's flying in front of you really quick, it's gonna look blurry, right? Like my hands right now, can you see them? Nice and blurry, right? So as that pencil's going through there, we need to add some blur to make it look a little more believable that it's flying through the air. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna click on the pencil PNG, go to effects, and then over here I'm gonna type in blur. And then I'm gonna use actually let's use the fast blur. It says obsolete, but I still think it's pretty cool. We're gonna use the fast blur, drop it on there. I'm gonna go down here and change it to vertical, and then I'm gonna move this up a little bit to about a little over 100 like that. So if you look now, the pencil looks nice and blurry and out of focus, and that's gonna make it look a lot more believable as it's flying through the air. Now, another thing that you could do if you wanna take more time, you could actually layer up this pencil and then make it even more blurry, kind of tweak the angle a little bit so it kind of creates more of that drag. That's all preference though, so it's up to you if you wanna go that extra mile and do that. Hey, more power to you. But we're gonna keep this short and sweet right now. We've got a little bit of blur, it's looking pretty good. Now, let's finish it up. So the last thing that we're gonna add, sound effects, and they're super important. They help tie everything in together. Now, if you look in here, I have a subscription to Epidemic Sound where I found these sound effects, but even if you don't have a subscription like that, I guarantee you could Google sound effects, whoosh sounds, stabbing sounds, and could find something super comparable. So what I've done here is I took my two sound effects and added the kind of ninja star whoosh right here as the pencil's flying through the air, and then an impact sound right here as it hits. So let's listen to it all together here. Simple as that. Again, right here for my audio, I have two files. Right here are the whooshes as it's spinning through the air, and then right here where it hits my head, I have it hitting that impact sound. One more time. That's it. Well, hopefully you found this video helpful or at least a little bit interesting, and if you did, it would mean so much if you took a second and did that thumbs up thing. Maybe leave a comment, let me know if you've tried this, or maybe you have a different or better way to do it. I'd love to hear about it. And if you like sketch style comedy videos and tutorials about some of the things that I do, consider checking out some of my videos, subscribing if you have a minute. We'd love to have you here. And other than that, yeah, have a good one. I'll see you next time. Ah!